August 6, 2020, Anthony, and I shaved. You didn't. How does that make you feel?
Let's start the show.
Hey, Anthony Melchiori, great to see you today. For all those wondering, no, I am not home. I still don't have power. I'm at Casa de Caroli, my mom's house, and set up the studio over here. How cool is technology that we can move a whole studio in just one morning?
You know what I like about technology is, one, technology is really helping us through this process. But coming out the end of this process, what's going on with COVID, it's going to affect the industry, because I'm telling you, 20-30% of people are going to stop doing business travel just simply because they can stay home. I just had a meeting with my PR company, and everybody was on Zoom, and I felt like I was hanging out with them in my house, and it felt so intimate, and it was like I felt like I got a lot done, and I didn't have to leave my house. So I think it's good, and I think it's bad.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is definitely good, and it's definitely bad in the sense that it is going to erode some of the travel that's out there. And the thing that scares me most, Anthony, is all these Zoom meetings that we have. And of course, we know you're using other sources as well, but colloquially, everybody calls it Zoom meetings these days. What I'm finding, Anthony, is everyone's getting super comfortable playing into exactly what you said. It's becoming normalized. It's natural. And all of those fears and worries that we had, not a big deal anymore. Everybody can be a little bit more casual on it. And I think that it's becoming very viable now, right?
I think so. I think with me is actually having the opposite effect. I'm done. You can say, yes, I'm done. I'm ready to go. And so,
we're all ready to go. That's no doubt.
No, I'm ready to travel, like for a envelope opening. So it's yeah. So listen, I think you're just gonna have some wash. It's gonna happen. But the hotel industry will figure it out. We figured it out before. We'll figure it out again. I'm trying to figure out why I look so washed out and I look so tired, because I'm not really tired. But we'll figure that out later. Who are we talking to today, my friend?
I heard you slept in this morning, so I'm surprised about that. Now, I'm sorry, I did not hear you. What was your question?
I slept till 8:30, which is about as late as I've ever slept, and since I'm in high school. So yeah. So anyway, so what are we talking about today?
Oh, today we got Dale Ross back from Hotel Effectiveness. We're going to talk about what is actually going on with employment and labor and all of those things that you need to know in your hotels. What do you think? Should we bring in Dale?
And how the $600 stimulus going away, how that's going to affect things. So let's go.
It might be back. We'll see. And I'm working on getting Chip Rogers from the presidency of AHLA back here next week, as a matter of fact, to talk about
that'd be good. That'd be good timing.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. Dale Ross. Dale Ross, Hotel Effectiveness. Welcome, our friend. Great to see you, sir.
Great to see you guys again.
Hey, your background is like there should be scary music in the back. Looks like there's a ghost behind you. So
yeah, he's got on the ghost filter today.
Yeah, you're just saying. I heard you talking about how we all got really good at Zoom, and here I am, like trying a different room for the first time, and it's a total fail. So rookie move.
You're still going to be good at the conversation online. You just might be a little bit fuzzy. We're talking about feeling comfortable about it overall.
So listen, I'm a numbers guy. I want to talk about numbers. So what news do we got?
What's the headline, Del?
Yeah, so we're halfway there. Let's say that the data from the labor front is that our industry, which in the U.S. employs about 8.4 million people. We got down to a little over 2 million at the worst part of this trough, and we were clawing our way back. I actually have some charts to share if we want to put some of those up.
And I'm going to take notes. First time I'm taking notes because I want to make sure I remember all this.
Yeah, sure. So,
and for those of you too lazy to take notes, feel free to replay this show over and over and over again, and share it with your friends while you're at it.
So 8.4 million workers is what you said, and we got down to 2 million. Is that correct?
Little over 2 million by mid-April, right? Mid-April was the lowest point of occupancy and of layoffs, and
about a 70% loss of employees.
Basically, yeah, a little bit more than 70 actually. So pretty bad. And that's actually when we started tracking this. We created a labor index based on historic staffing levels at all different chain scales. We've got 4,500 hotels data. So good sampling, cross chain scale, and we pulled together this labor index. We've been tracking it every week since the start of this downturn. And so if you go back to the slide, we'll show the initial labor index. So the overall story has been that we recovered about half of the employees in the industry. That's been pretty steady since late May, gathering steam.
Hold on. Now, did we recover half of the 8 million? So we're at 4 million. So we increased to 2 million, or did we increase more than that? I just want to make sure.
Did we increase? Did we get back half the losses, or are we just back to half of what we were before?
We're half of where we were pre-COVID.
So
we're at 4 million.
2 million. So we went down to 2 million. Now we're at 4 million, but we got to get to 8 million. Is that
that's right? Exactly.
Okay.
So you see the low point, we were at 28% of the full employment for our industry. Now we're up to about half overall. Now just as we've seen occupancy occupancy growth has kind of stalled. We're really not showing a lot there. In our own portfolio, there's some good news there, but overall occupancy is that it has flattened out a bit and is expected to stay there. Staffing obviously follows occupancy, right? More demand, more heads in beds means more bodies are needed. So we've seen this really for the last couple of weeks, right around 50%. And that may be where we are for a while. So this is the total top line picture. We also have this broken out by.
Hold on. Let's back up for a second because I want to put these numbers in perspective. So we're at 28% when all this hit, and now we're at 50%. Before we went down, as you say, we were at what, 63%, 65% as an industry?
No, so that's occupancy, right?
This is staffing level. So
but staffing level pre-COVID was 100%, right? That was the index. So this is 28% of normal staffing, or 38% of normal staffing. Right? Yeah, it's not occupancy. If I was to plot that, is going to show occupancy dipping down into the teens around mid-April, and then coming back up to like the low 40s, last week or so.
Azul, these are specifically for hotels, not the event industry at large, specifically hotels. Adele, please continue.
Yeah, hotels and hotel conference centers and anything employment directly related to a hotel. So a hotel restaurant would be included in these numbers, but not a restaurant next to a hotel.
Right.
And let's be clear when we're describing the chart, because the people listening to our podcast can't see the chart. So let's go. Let me read out some of the numbers. So on April 19th, we had 28.2%. That is again down from 100%. And we started to recover, but July 5th, it was 48.7. July 19th, 50.3%, where it stays with your most recent data on July 26th, also 50.3%, just over half of the folks returning to the hospitality industry.
Okay. Exactly. Now switch to the next one, and we talk about by chain scale. So we use the same chain scale that STR uses for the most part. The story was not the same across the board. Economy hotels, which really basically have a minimal staff to begin with, they have about on average 6 or 7 people at most. Budget exterior corridor hotels, they dropped by 1. Right? They lost a person, and they've in many cases hired those people back. The same thing has happened with their occupancy, is they're seeing this incredible surge of demand for people who think that exterior corridor is safer, right? So this is like a weird time. It was this, such a weird time. It's like up is down, down is up. Everything we took for granted, it's completely inverted. So, Dale, why don't you shout out some of the specific numbers that we're looking at here so our audio listeners can understand? Right. So the hardest hit sector, not surprisingly, luxury resort. A lot of that also is city center conference hotels, just crushed, all but empty. Right. So that was they were at the bottom with 4% of their pre-COVID employment. Upper upscale at the trough was 20% employment. Again, a lot of city center activity there.
Right.
You move into upscale, and you're up to 29%, 36% for upper mid scale. So that's going to be like your Hilton Garden Inns and Courtyards, etc. Move into the regular mainstream mid scale, 43% at the lowest point, so a little less than half. Now, those guys had about 22 people In normal times, they went down to about 11, right? All sectors have recovered. The slowest to recover was luxury resort. We actually saw no movement in luxury resort until late June. And now all segments have come back, some of them quite a lot. You see that mid-scale, following the example of economy, has hired back a lot more workers. They're up to 72% as of last week. 63% of the full employment for upper mid-scale has returned to work. Just under half for upscale hotels. And so that's like your full service Marriott.
Yep.
So last week when you said mid-scale increased their employment, how much of that $600 stimulus impacted that?
Well, so actually that has much more to do with who's coming back to work and getting them back, which is a whole other issue, right? So there's no question that as people were bringing staff back to work, there was an issue with people not wanting to come back because they were better off not working, right? If you were making $12 an hour with unemployment plus the $600 a week, you're actually making more money staying at home. So It got a little tricky for folks trying to bring back staff. That being said, a lot of the workforce we're seeing is not the same people that it was before. This is a hugely important point. We were 8.4 million people working in the industry. We're back up to around 4 million or so now, but they're different. They're not the same people. The only real stability we have in terms of actual personnel is the management team, the salaried staff.
Right. And that team came back early. They were really doing multiple jobs within the hotel, right?
Yeah, they never left, right?
Unless their hotel closed for a period of time.
Well, even then, even when a hotel is closed, you still have your GM on staff.
Right.
You still have you can't have zero employees.
Right, of course.
Right? It doesn't really work. So you really get down to we always talked about like theoretical zero-based budgeting, zero-based staffing. Like, what would you do? What's the bare minimum? But it was a theoretical exercise that nobody ever did. And all of a sudden, in April and May, we actually learned what it really is because everybody's at zero base. In a minute, I'll show the chart that shows by position, but you can see that.
How do you know that you're saying the managers basically stayed, but the employees left and they're new employees? What graph or like
what evidence do you have that shows that?
Great segue. There we go.
Yeah. So we moved on to another graph.
Yeah, we moved on to another graph. There's a lot of positions here, but we grouped them by department. And what you want to see, it's a little hard to read in this screen, but the down at the bottom, right around where it says 1 or 2, you look at management, which is a green dashed line. No, you had it right.
We got to go back.
Yep. Yeah. Use the arrow again to go down. There's down at about the 1 or 2 level. There's a green dashed line.
There you go.
You see, that is steady as a rock, starting with the baseline of March 8th, which pretty much tracked where we always had it. So we looked at a year and a half worth of data. As of March 8th, that was pretty much static, right? We used Sunday staffing levels, and it never changed. The GM, assistant GM stayed on staff, right? The whole time. And that's true for all the management level positions, the salary positions, even sales and marketing. You kept one person on, the manager, the lead there, they stayed on. Every hotel basically cut back to salaried team plus 1. We were at our trough, right? And that salaried team was anywhere from 4 to 6 people for hotels. As we grew back, rooms division has recovered. Rooms division led the way with housekeeping and guest services, right? So you get people checking in, you suddenly need somebody besides the general manager to check guests in. And then the general manager realizes he can't clean all the rooms by himself or herself. Right. So they bring on housekeeper number 1, 2, et cetera. All those positions came back first. They have also stabilized fastest. So you're actually still at less than half of the housekeepers that you normally had in most hotels, but you brought them back pretty early. Where you see no recovery at all is really on the F&B side and the meeting side.
And all of that makes sense. There's no meetings, and a lot of F&B is transformed from full service dining to grab and go or have a very limited menu and no customers.
Exactly. And this has been, again, like everything else, somewhat stabilized. Don't really want to get too distracted by that little downturn in housekeeping. That's just a weekly fluctuation. But it basically we're holding steady. Those are driven by occupancy, right? You get people checking in, checking out. You need to clean the rooms. You need to check them in. You need to provide that front desk service. So really straightforward. And that's where we are. We won't get to full recovery until we have the recovery of that meeting segment and the restaurant side returns to normalcy. And that may take quite some time. Even in select service hotels, which didn't have full service restaurants, they have, breakfast attendants who are setting up the buffets and heating up the eggs and cinnamon rolls. Not doing that now, right? Those are not open in any of the hotels. That's not part of the grab and go thing. Everything grab and go is pre-packaged, pre-made, shelf stable, and the front desk person can do that. So those positions are going to be the last to return, or they'll basically be waiting for restaurants.
So what do you attribute the employees that didn't come back, like to have a complete kind of just escape of all these employees out of our industry and having to rehire? The training and the cost of that is significant. Why do you think that is? Why do you think we lost so many employees that didn't come back?
Well, there's a couple of reasons for it. As you know, prior to the downturn, the unemployment rate was incredibly low, and it was really hard. We had 1 million unfilled positions in our industry, right before all this hit. And basically, if you could walk in the door and manage a smile, you're probably getting hired.
Right. And people were going down the block for a quarter more an hour.
Yeah, I think Chris Green once said, we were on a panel together, and this was back in September last year, and he said they were dipping into the felony pool. That was his quote. I just love that, right? That's how bad it was. Well, the reality is right now, at 14% unemployment or wherever we are, you got a lot of people who are quite qualified that would not have considered taking a line level job in a hotel, and they're available now. And so you get a combination of things. That's number one. You actually have a different labor pool that's available now that wasn't willing to take those jobs before. Two, there are a lot of people who are scared to return because we are in a people business, people serving people, and those are scary. They're risky businesses, and some people just didn't feel good about it. And number three, attrition in general in our industry was always high because a lot of the jobs we have are very hard, and some of them are burnout jobs anyway. And now if you're in a period of isolation at work, coupled with a job that maybe wasn't the most desirable job anyway, it makes it tough. So those three factors are the reason why we have a lot of new people entering the industry right now. Big question is, what do we do with them? And can we do a better job at training and retaining and motivating those guys? Can we reinvent that process even as we reinvent everything else in the industry?
Well, we were talking about the other day. I'm glad you mentioned that. And we were talking the other day about the poor management in this industry. We take employees, line employees, and we put them in positions they're not ready for, and they become managers because they showed up on time, they're friendly, and now they're managing a business, and they don't know what the hell they're doing. And that's causing just as many problems in our industry as anything else, that you have really incompetent managers in positions, but they're nice people and they show up on time. That's not a person that should be running a business. And sometimes, for some reason, our industry doesn't get taken seriously as a business. This is a business. You're running, in some cases, $100 million building. You're running a $50 million building, a $10 million building. You're running real money, real assets. And so this should be a wake-up call to our industry that training is real, and you've got to put the time and the effort into it. Because if you want to keep that kid that could have went and become a doctor or become a lawyer, all of a sudden he finds his way in the hotel business and falls in love with the hotel business, and you want to groom that kid to become a general manager, that's what we need to be doing. And and I hate to say it, but the incompetence in some of these hotels at the general manager and higher level was staggering to me. And that's one of the reasons I always stayed out of the industry from a corporate standpoint and always kind of was this renegade guy, independent guy, because I just couldn't deal with people that were just promoted because they were nice and showed up on time.
No, it's so true. A year ago, we ran the stats. We were actually prepping for that panel I was on with
Chris.
Yeah, with Chris. We actually looked at all the attrition data. The number one attrition in hotel, the highest turnover position in a hotel is housekeeping, right? It was at the time, it was over 115%. And that was actually an improvement from prior months. The second highest turnover position in our industry last August was the assistant general manager position. AGMs, the bench strength for the future, right? These are the guys going to take over. And our theory on that was that these are the up and comers. These are the future superstars, and they were being burnt out and thrown away because they weren't onboarded right. They weren't seeing the training, and they're seeing the job ahead of them. The GM job was a really hard, thankless job, and we lost them. And so now we're dealing with that, Anthony. It's a really sound point. We're actually now having to pay the price for having not developed the bench when times were good.
Right.
We make that same mistake going into this new recovery cycle. We're going to just be reliving that all over again.
And I know we're talking about numbers, but let's take that and kind of dissect that just for a second. You look at that, and you just said the general manager, the assistant general manager burns out because the general manager job is a thankless job, because the general manager didn't do a good job of protecting the assistant general manager from the owner and showing that's a thankless job. When anytime you run a hotel, you're not supposed to let them see you sweat. So if you come out of the owner's meeting and the owner was just being an idiot and wasn't paying attention to you, and you didn't win your argument, you went back and told your assistant general manager the owner's being an idiot. What I would do is I would win that argument. And if I didn't win that argument, then I would just agree to disagree with the owner and come back and say, this is what we're doing. And anytime that assistant general manager would push up against me, I say, hey, you're right. I understand. But these are the reasons we got to do this, even if I don't believe 100% in those reasons. And that's what I'm talking about. That's the difference between a person that likes people, that shows up on time and smiles, and a business person.
Yeah,
a business person will be able to articulate the owners, because at the end of the day, the owner owns the building. And if the number one job I have as a general manager is to take my team and want them to want my job, that is my priority. My priority is to get myself fired so they can come and take the job and I can get promoted. So that to me has been something that I've talked about for 30 years in this industry, that we take these kids and we put them in jobs and we don't teach them. And a lot of the teaching is just talking and showing. It's not sitting them in a room, a training room. It's sitting and bringing them into a meeting early on at 18, 19, 20, 30, 25 years old and showing. I know Arlene Vander, I can't remember her last name, my first general manager, brought me into those meetings. And that was really important to me. And she was always compassionate and always very smart, but she brought me into those meetings and taught me how to show up.
Yeah.
It seems to me this is a time in our history right now when things are quieter. You can have a little bit of that GM teaching moments as they go through, because there's not a lot of pressure to go running around necessarily if you have 30-40% occupancy in your hotel. So you can take a moment, say, hey, do it this way. Let me show you how it's done, and bring them into the fold in that way. I think.
But the problem also, again, I don't mean to go off on a tangent here, but also the problem is that the owner doesn't treat the general manager with respect, and the general manager doesn't understand how to manage the owner. And then the general manager is afraid to get fired. So he's acting out of a fear of getting fired. And I've always said, I've never been afraid to get fired. And if you're never afraid to get fired, then you can do your job well. If you're constantly worried about getting fired, you're going to get fired.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. So I actually love this topic. I mean, we're a nuts and bolts company. We're like, a technology connecting at the intersection of PMS and payroll data. But we get questions all the time about onboarding, about how do you improve, how do you reduce attrition, how do you develop the future. We're producing a recovery guide next week, really practical thing. And we have a whole section on onboarding, right? We don't do onboarding. We're not an onboarding, but we're saying you bring people back. Don't just throw them to the wolves. Don't just say, here's your mop, go clean. Really be thoughtful about this, whether it's for the individual contributor job or that assistant general manager job. Cultivate, plan, be thoughtful. Recognize these guys are coming into currently a kind of a scary environment that they're not prepared for.
I agree with that, but the problem is a lot of these general managers or these mid-level managers don't have the ability of doing that. Because, again, I really think, and one of the things that I've showed for 10 years on my show is the problem is never the employee. The problem is not even the general manager. The problem is the owner, because the owner is trying to get as much money out of that property as possible. And I've seen it at a $1 billion hotel, literally, and I've seen it at a $5-10 million hotel.
Yeah, for sure.
The owner just wants to make as much money as possible. So the general manager has got to learn how to manage the owner. I remember someone, Joe Torre, said when he was hired by George Steinbrenner, and he said, and the news outlet asked him, it's like, so how do you think George Steinbrenner is going to manage you? And he said, he owns the team. My job is to manage him. His job is not to manage me. So, and I
So
think if general managers thought more of that way, like your job is to manage that owner and get what you need for your team. If you're going to fight with that owner all the time and it's going to go down to your employees, you're going to lose your hotel. I'm sorry, Glenn.
no, I want to ask you more about that, Anthony, because it's fascinating to me. So what advice do you have for people who are in that position that don't even know how to deal with their owner? They're beset by fear. They don't know what to do. What are some basic tips on how a general manager can feel more confident in their role by allaying the fears and getting that owner out of their hair?
Well, one of the things that you're starting to see on the show is that I'm a numbers person. And when a guy like, Dell's on and who we had yesterday, anytime there's a numbers person on, I go geek, right?
I totally, man.
The reason I go geek is because numbers drive the conversation. I've never gone into, or not, when I was early on, went into owners meetings emotional. I never go into an owners meeting without thinking 3 steps ahead of them. I have more data than anybody in that meeting. I have literally, it was a joke. I used to have reams and reams, especially when I was at Tishman, reams and so much information. I used to short circuit myself because I didn't know. I was so overwhelmed by information. I would stay up on a Sunday. I would go into work on a Sunday at 7 o'clock in the morning, not come home to 7 o'clock at night. Okay. And I would prep for my meetings. So I am a numbers driven person. Owners understand facts. No one makes decisions. Numbers make decisions. Facts make decisions. So for those young managers, you've got to understand when you're talking to an owner, talk numbers, talk facts. The emotion part, you lose them. Because at the end of the day, when they go into a mortgage company or they go to investors, they're not saying, well, housekeeping doesn't feel really spirited today. They don't give a crap. Okay. The owner's got to feel. So I really learned during my career is that my emotion for my employees and my love for the industry is completely separate than my numbers brain of no emotion, numbers, facts, only facts. And then I can say, hey, the reason this is important, okay, instead of spending the $10,000, I want you to spend $25,000. This is why. Okay, now I can bring the emotion in. Now I can bring the retention in. This will get me retaining people longer. This will make people feel pride in the hotel. But I got to get through the facts of the numbers first. That is lost in our business.
I think that's right. I had similar experience at IHG when I had revenue accountability for thousands of hotels and had to deal with owners all the time. I found that if you lead with the punchline and then back it up, you say, we're going to deliver X. And here's how we're going to do it, right? You give them the number, you hit the money, say, look, your GOP is going to improve by 2%. Here's how I'm going to deliver that. That disarms the bomb right away, and you can actually control the conversation. If instead you decide you have this elaborate buildup and you're talking to a financial owner, they're not going to listen to you, right? They're flipping to the back of the deck. And that's what we have to remember all the time. I actually think the same thing could apply to people on the staff of a hotel when talking to their GM too. The other skill that people do not have natively is how to manage up and how to get what you need out of a manager, especially if it's not a good manager. You have to learn that as well.
It's interesting. I was going to buy this hotel. I was really excited about it. And the bankers weren't giving money to hotels in New York City anymore. Okay. At this point.
When in history was this?
It was probably 6 years.
Late 90s? 6 years ago. Okay.
No, it was 6 years ago where they gave all their money out.
Right.
This was a bank that lent a lot of money to hotels. So they were too heavy in hotels. So this bank specifically. So I go in, one guy, the executive vice president, knows me from the show. It's like, oh, the Hotel Impossible guy's here, right? And the other guy doesn't know me from Adam. So they both said, when they sat down, they said, hey, we're only here because you know so-and-so. We're not giving any more money to the hotel industry, but we wanted to meet you because maybe in the future. So what they didn't know is I came 100% prepared. 2 years of due diligence on this property. I had a binder this big. And for 15 minutes, only 15 minutes, because I learned at Tishman, you only have for 15 minutes. So I summarized I showed them the book, but I summarized it to 3 pages, and I did a graph. And guess what? I walked out of that with a letter of intent of $18 million.
Wow.
Okay? I walked, and I literally walked, I was in the elevator, and I go, did I just do that? And I only did that because of my training at Tishman and my training in this industry. And people that didn't want to give me $18 million gave me a letter of intent for $18 million. Right. So I went in as the hotel guy, and I walked out as I went in as the Hotel Impossible guy. I walked out as the investor guy. And that's where young managers get lost. And somebody said in our comments here.
Yeah, right over here. I have a feeling it's this one.
Right, no, but I like that one.
But I like that too. Which one are you talking about? We'll bring that one
The
up.
one that this conversation translates to all businesses, and it's true.
Yeah, I had that up already. I'll bring it back up.
Again, real quick, I have my daughter. We wanted to go to a certain high school. She wanted to go to this other high school. And the high school we wanted to go to was a public high school. It was a great public high school. She wanted to go to this private college, private high school. And we didn't care. It wasn't the money. It was like we knew this was a better education if she went to this school. You know what my daughter did? She cried, and then she got smart. She goes, Mom, Dad, come up to my room. So we go up to her room, and she has a PowerPoint. And the PowerPoint was, okay, if I go to this school, okay, it's going to cost you $40,000, right, for my high school. If I go to this school, it's free. Okay, I want to go to this school, but if I go to this school, it's free. And then she goes, repeat after me, $40,000. How much is an iMac? Whatever, $1,800. $1,800. Okay, so I'll go to this school, but I want an iMac. She got it.
Yeah.
And so because she looked at the numbers, and we didn't even look at the numbers. So that is again, I'm an emotional guy, but I've learned the hard way. I've been beaten into submission.
Yeah,
Don't come in with your heart. Come in with
so,
and
Anthony, I got to ask you a story then. Tell us a story about where you really learned a lesson the hard way about how you really need to refocus on how you connect with owners and get them to understand that you're the man and not someone who's going to roll over.
You'll relate to this, and please add. As an asset manager of Tishman, I was the first vice president of Tishman. I was in charge of $1 billion worth of asset, which is basically the Westin Hotel. And I was an emotional guy. I'm an operations guy, come in. And I learned when I went into that room, man, nobody cared about my emotions. Everybody cared about the numbers. So that's where I really learned it. And I short-circuited myself. I talk about in my book. I short-circuited myself. In one meeting, I got so overwhelmed by the numbers that I did a terrible job. And I got laughed at. I literally got laughed out of the room to the point that the next day I went behind two executives in a bar, and I was going up to say hello to them, and they were making fun of me because my presentation was so poor. Because it was really hard for me to get my emotions in check and the numbers. And then when I learned how to do that, so great question, because it was really that moment that I learned it's like they don't care about me. They care, and I don't mean that in disrespectful.
Right, absolutely.
They care about your $1 billion asset that they got to basically make payments on. So just give them the facts, give them in a very clear, succinct way, and get the hell out of their way. So I learned, again, I was 40 years old when I learned this lesson. I wasn't 20, and no one ever taught me this lesson. So I had to burn myself out, and I had to I lost 18 pounds in like 3 months, learning to go from this emotionally filled, employee-driven manager to just facts and only the facts. So, Del, you want to respond to that, or
no? Well, I think so. Before I between working for IHG and taking this role at Hotel Effectiveness, I worked for a global consulting agency called McKinsey and Company, and they work with some really great companies around the world, right? And one of the things that they do, they rely on a very powerful phrase when they're trying to influence people who definitely know more than they do or think they know more than they do about whatever the topic is at hand. And this phrase, I think, can work for managing up, managing across, or managing down. And it's really important. If I want to tell you something, if I was going to tell Anthony anything about the industry, I would start with the phrase, as you know, and then I'd tell you the thing that I don't think you know. And that phrase right there, as you know, disarms the bomb. It gets people really focused. It acknowledges and with respect that they are experts and they belong in the room. And then you get to say what you need to say. That plus that punchline, start with the punchline, that combination I found to be incredibly powerful. If you want to make a point, get to the point and do it with respect.
You know, John Paulson, who is a great guy in this industry, and he was my assistant. He should have had my job. But anyway, and he used to say that to me. He used to say, they know this before you walk in the room. Tell them stuff they don't know. You know, and as you know, is a great way. I don't know if I use that terminology, but I could have used it. Because they know the problems. They know that what the food and beverage costs and all that stuff was going in because they read the report you read. Give them a little bit of information of stuff they don't know and what you're going to do to improve. So again, if this is a lesson to managers, is don't get caught up in the sexiness and the emotion, and this is where the greatest industries ever invented. Entertainment industry, hotel industry is the greatest industry ever. But because we are people, and we love people, and we love being around this industry, we get lost in the business of it. And that is, coming out of this, we've got to be able to teach people this is an effing business. This isn't a party.
That's right.
So let me ask you a question, another question. Let's get a little bit deeper into what we're talking about. And that's what I love about the format of this show. We think we're going to talk about one thing, and then we find something super interesting, and then we got to mine it for all it's worth. So Anthony Dell, you want to give your owners something they don't know. But you just said they're looking at all the same spreadsheets and all of those numbers. So where can you make that connection and show them that you know the stuff that they aren't aware of that isn't on that sheet of paper? Is it something that's going on the property level, behind the scenes? What is it?
So I think you're going to look at they're going to know RevPAR, right? They're going to know where RevPAR is, and they're going to know where it was last year. They're going to know where it is relative to budget, and they might even have a level down from that. They probably can't go too much deeper. So let's say I'm talking to Anthony, who's got the whole spreadsheet. He's the asset manager, and I need to tell him I'm the director of sales and marketing, and I need to tell him what's going on, what the plan is. I would start by saying, Anthony, as you know, 25% of our business last year came from youth sports, right? Quad occupancy rooms coming out there. Every single one of them bought a breakfast pass and all that stuff. And that was 25% of our revenues. And that has all gone away. And we are not going to get any of that back for 6 months. Here's what I'm doing instead. These are the segments we're going after. We've never gone after before. Here's the risk and all that stuff. Anthony may not have known that that's where our business came from. He knew he knew the revenue, he knew the rooms. But
maybe even thought it was 15% or whatever.
Right. And now he actually knows that I know the business. I know where it comes from, and I know where I think I'm going to get it, but there's some risk there because I haven't gotten it from there before.
And it's also one of those things where you have a problem and you don't make it the owner's problem. You're presenting a solution.
Yes, that's right.
Drop the mic and walk out. That's it. There's nothing I can add to that. That's the formula, whether you're running a hotel, a restaurant, or a bicycle shop. Because
that's one thing I learned in my career, Anthony, is that early on, if you say, well, what should I do? You're opening yourself up to be irrelevant, right? Because you need to participate in it. You need to give your supervisor, the owner, whatever it is, possible answers.
Glenn, if you ever came in my office and you were a manager for me, and you said, "What do you think I should do, boss?" I would fire you on the spot. Now, there's a difference between that and coming in and saying, "Hey, boss, I looked at this 3 ways. There's 3 options. I don't know. I don't know really which option to pick. I'm kind of leaning one way, but I don't even want to tell you which way I'm leaning. I just kind of want your perspective. Then I'm going to give you a raise. But
absolutely,
you come in. It's like, listen, because when you leave, one of the things you have to understand is when you leave, and I learned this in the military. The boss that you just talked to has 27 other people, right? That they have to help. So if 27 people come in and say, "Hey, I don't have the answer," what the hell do I need 27 people for?
That's right.
Well, so that's, and I always say, it's not the lie gets you in trouble. The truth sets you free. The lies get you in trouble, or not putting in the thought, not putting in the work. And again, there's sometimes where your boss will come over to you and knows you don't have the answer and be like, "Hey, stop. Okay, I'm going to help you here." Just don't be the person that hits that first barrier and goes, "Ouch." I want you to get to the 3rd and 4th barrier, and I want to see a couple black and blues on you before I come in and help you, because that means you're trying really hard.
Yeah. I think that same technique, we're talking about managing up to an owner. I think it works for every level of employment. An individual contributor should know more about the problem at hand that they're facing than their boss. If they take the same exact strategy and say, "Hey, Anthony, I got an issue with room 307. I can't get the power to work. Here's what I'm planning to do about it." That sound like it would work? That's a winning strategy versus "I can't get it to work," right? Yep. Make the person realize you've got a stake in the game. You're an owner. If I saw some comments about how do you break through, this is the way you break through. You don't bring problems to the table. You bring solutions and ask for nuances and advice and perspective. Right? I think that's really important.
Everybody's ever worked for me, or worked with me, I should say, and especially on set, we're like, "Hey, so how's Anthony to work with?" Don't ever bring him a problem you don't have a solution to, or that you're thinking about a solution. And people used to say, literally every producer that got this speech before I came onto set, would be he's a really nice guy until he's not.
But
Until he's not. And what does he
Right.
mean? It's like if you're running a hotel, right? One of the things that young managers don't understand, or people don't understand in general, is let's start at the bank level, right? Let's start with the dream first. The owner has a dream to buy a hotel. Like I almost bought this hotel, right, that I was talking about. I came real close to getting it. I've spent my entire life wanting to buy this hotel. I went in, I got an $18 million letter of intent. I got other investors, and I put basically my reputation and my soul into this. I spent 2 years of due diligence for this hotel. I go in, I get it. Okay, say I would have gotten it. I lost the hotel, but say I would have gotten it. I would have been able to buy that hotel. Now, the banker is saying, okay, I need your first child, your second child, your third child, and any children you're going to have in advance, they're going to be, on this loan. Mm-hmm. So, and you're going to lose your house, your car, and everything that you've ever worked for. Okay. So now, because we know a lot of these loans, you have to sign personally for a lot of these loans. So now you go in, and now the banker's out of the way, you own the hotel. That moment, before we open the hotel and before I hire my general manager, they got to understand that pain. They got to understand what's at risk for me. They've got to understand that, yes, I want to make everybody happy. Yes, I want to do free cocktails. Yes, I want, buy 3 nights, get 7 nights free. I want to make that housekeeper rich. I want to make my general manager make $1 million a year. Let me tell you the story. This is the story of how I got the hotel. This is the story of how it's leveraged. Okay, so now when we start with that story, this is what I need you to do. And if you're still within these confines of this loan and this agreement and my passion for this hotel, then you can play. But if you don't understand the story, you don't care. It's not that you're stupid or you don't want to, you don't care because you don't know. And the biggest thing that I've learned in this industry is I want to know the owner's why, and I want to know his story, and I want to know his pain threshold.
Awesome.
Once I get that, then I can go out and play in the playground.
Yeah. I freaking love that. Del, I'd love for you to comment, but then I want to bring us back to this great data that you.
I just said one more thought around this idea of bringing solutions.
I think
to the
he froze.
Table. Can you hear me? I'm here. I can hear you. Yeah. So I was saying early on about the lack of training in the industry for management training. And I was actually thinking about the flip side of this, bringing solutions to the table, because the truth is most people won't. They're going to say, hey, boss, what do you want me to do? A key tip for managers out there is that you're going to know what to do. I will tell you right off the bat, you're going to know how to solve the problem. You know what you would do, right? Don't. First thing you should do is say, what do you think we should do? Ask them for a recommendation. Empower them. They may not know, and that's okay. Then you go back into plan A. But if they actually bring a solution to the table, a couple of things could happen. First, they feel like you respect them, which is really good. Second, they might have a good idea. And if they do, even if you don't think it's quite as good as yours and you let them do it, you've empowered them. That person feels like it's a better job, right? Because they're not just a robot. They're an empowered team member. Third, they might have a way better idea than you had because they're closer to the problem than you. And now you learned something. Hallelujah. Fantastic situation. Everybody wins.
I can't agree with you more. And I can't tell you how many times, almost all the time, when somebody comes up and says, what do you think? And you just see their spirit, and a lot of times I don't know the friggin' answer. Because I'm a general manager. I'm supposed to generally manage.
When? Come on, Anthony. When have you ever not known the answer? Come on.
He knows how to fake it if he doesn't.
So to me, I literally say this all the time. 99% of the time, I'm going to take a recommendation. And 99% of the time, I'm going to say, maybe I don't know the exact answer, right? The 1% of the time that I say I want to do something, we're going to do it. And I'll tell you why. Because that's the 1% of the time that I am 100% positive that this is going to work. Because 99% of the time, I don't know. So I'd rather take your recommendation and lift you up. Like, I think this will work, but I'm not sure. So if you're saying, hey, boss, let's try this, I want you to do that. I want you to run. It's that 1% where I'm like, I respect you and I appreciate you. This is what we're going to do. And if I'm wrong, you can come into my office and you can laugh at me and videotape it and put it on Instagram. Right? But let's try it.
Does that offer extend to me, Anthony?
but that's really, really important. I think that was the best advice is like, what do you think? Because again, I always say you don't need a lot of big wins. You need a lot of little wins. And again, one of the things I talk about is when I was in the Air Force, I had no confidence, and I had the best underwear drawer in my squadron. I folded my underwear better than anybody else. It's a true story. I talk about it in the book. And I folded my underwear better than anybody else in the squadron, and I got kind of recognized for that. And that little win, literally, as ridiculous as it sounds, like I didn't get that growing up. I didn't have a dad. I didn't have a lot of discipline. So I didn't get that growing up. I didn't get those attaboys. I didn't get that. So if you take this young manager, or even older manager, because a lot of the managers that have 10, 15, 20 years experience, they've been beaten down.
Right.
So when you come in and you say, hey, what do you think? It's like, what? I'm allowed to think? Especially, again, no disrespect to brands, especially for the really good brands that are on that train, and we know who they are, especially the one at the top that starts with an M. This is the way you do things, okay? And so if you're a vice president or a general manager, there's not a lot of room to think. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of these general managers like to go to these signature brands and these, like the brand is there, technology-wise, but the brand's not on the name, and the general manager's allowed to think a little bit more. So these people have been in the business so long that they haven't really been able to think outside the box. So those words are what do you think is the most uplifting and freeing words you can ever ask an employer?
So we've learned a lot today, as you know. And what do you think? Really important phrases to get into you, depending on your job. All right, we're starting to get short on time, gentlemen, because that's why I want to go back to some of the amazing data that Dell brought over. Dell, you got some information on what's going on with housekeeping, which is not necessarily what you would expect. Please share that with us.
Right. So this is actually really big news. So we know that the new cleaning standards, whether it's the HLA Safe Stay program, cleaning protocols, or the brand protocols and requirements, they've extended the cleaning time for departure cleans by 5 to 7 minutes, according to Hotel Av, right? It's a big deal, costs a ton of money. But we have data, right? We track clean times. We track housekeeping minutes per room and laundry minutes per room for all these hotels, for thousands and thousands of guests in every day. And we just did a comparison. We haven't tracked this number since February, but we ran it yesterday. So this is exclusive, hot off the presses data. And amazingly enough, we've actually seen an improvement in productivity in the form of reduced minutes per room for housekeeping. So what this chart shows you is across the board, every chain scale has seen improvements or reduced minutes per room for housekeeping since the COVID epidemic, right?
Is that minutes per room per cleaning, or per week, or per month?
This is actually minutes per room, per occupied room, right?
Wait, hold on. Oh, per occupied room, because a lot of rooms aren't being cleaned.
Well, it actually, here's the reason why. It's exactly this. So the checkout cleans, the departure cleans are a lot longer, right? They're 5, 7, 10 minutes longer. They're actually a lot more like deep cleans used to be than the standard turnover clean, right? I actually heard from a brand leader the other day, something that was kind of gross in a way, but he was saying that they made it a requirement now to actually change all of the towels out, even the ones that didn't look used. Now, I thought that was already a rule. I thought that was completely disgusting, but now it's an official rule, and it's costing the hotels more.
There was a time on my show, one time I looked at the camera and I go, I'm going to tell you a little secret, ladies and gentlemen. We don't take all the towels. In my hotels, we did, but we don't take all the towels out of the room. So, my friend Mark Summers that does Restaurant Impossible and 100 other shows, he stayed at one of my hotels. He stayed at one of my hotels, the Lucerne Hotel, and he goes, hey, it's a great hotel. He didn't even know it was mine. But anyway, so he goes, the one thing that they have that's kind of gross because he has OCD is the towels are above the toilet. So he goes, what happens if the water splashes on those towels? I said, well, we take them out. He goes, do all hotels take them out? I go, no. So it's disgusting.
Yeah, never take the third one in the pile.
Right.
No, just don't do that. So anyway, you get this protracted clean times because it's not just that. It's actually things like, spraying things down, wiping down all solid surfaces, all the kind of extra steps. That is adding 5 to 7 minutes to the departure clean. But the stay over clean is gone, right? For the most part, hotels are not doing stay over cleans anymore. Those used to be, so for a select service hotel, that was like 15 minutes on average for a stay over clean. And I'm not talking about the do not disturbs, right? Everything's a do not disturb now. If you need you want service, you actually can get fresh linens dropped off at your door. But you're not going to get a clean unless you leave the hotel. and say, I'm going to be gone for 6 hours and I won't be back. And even then, a lot of hotels aren't doing it. The result is extended stay, a little over 5 minutes of reduction in housekeeping minutes per room. Select service 4.8 minutes, full service 5.2 minutes. Luxury resort, these are bigger, complicated, right? They take longer to clean anyway because they're more intricate rooms. 7-minute savings. On average, 1 minute of housekeeping time is $50,000 a year of operating costs.
Wow.
Right? So this swing of 5 minutes could be $250,000 a year in a normal occupancy market.
Say that again, 1 minute of cleaning time for which kind of hotel? Any hotel or?
That's on average across all chain scales.
For 1 minute, I didn't even know this number. 1 minute of cleaning time,
$50,000. And by the way, just to put that in perspective, what is 1 minute? What takes a minute? Changing the pillowcase on a king size pillow takes about 45 seconds, right? So you want to think about, like, when you're picking a pillowcase, we all look at thread count. We look at, like how well does it wear, things like that. We seldom check to see if it's kind of a tight fit and you have to spend extra time shaking it down in there. We don't look at like how quick it can get pillow in and out. We don't look at that.
Right, because Del, if you have 3 or 4 or 5 pillows in a room, and then you have 250 rooms over an entire course of a year, that is a tremendous amount of minutes.
A lot of money for pillows, right? And we don't think about that.
One of the things I want to get to is because this is kind of in our, in the press right now with unions asking for, we have to clean every room every single day. That's going to destroy the industry. What's going to save the industry is these numbers that you just talked about. Because when you save time, right, you're going to have to basically have people do this checkouts the right way. So when they do the checkouts the right way and people come into a clean room, you're going to get better reviews. So you're going to actually save jobs. Yeah. Okay. By doing this, you're saving jobs. You're not eliminating jobs, because that housekeeper that maybe is now less in the room, 5 minutes less in the room, is now cleaning the hallways, because now we have a more intense cleaning program for meeting rooms and hallways and outside the hotel. So you're not displacing necessarily employees when you're taking them out of the room. You're maybe putting them somewhere else. And if you are displacing them and you lose 1 or 2 housekeepers, which nobody wants to do, okay, you're going to save that hotel. And you're going to save the entirety of most of those jobs in the hotel. And that's what people aren't understanding. And the numbers that you're providing show that.
Yeah, it's we talk about this. Everybody knows that you can't sell last night's unsold room. What people forget is that yesterday's wasted labor costs cannot be recovered. You can't say, oh, I overspent. I had too many people working housekeeping or front desk or maintenance yesterday. I'll just cut back tomorrow. It doesn't work. You're ruining yourself. It can't happen. So one of the big wake-up calls to this industry, that pre-COVID, optimizing labor costs was a nice way to juice your hotel for a few more points of GOP and NOI. But it wasn't necessary. If you're making a lot of money and you're happy, okay, well, why go through the trouble? I've been doing it the same way for 30 years. Can't do that anymore, right? You cannot. We're in a phase, we're looking at this recovery in 3 phases. We were at the zero-base phase where it's like barely alive, just enough occupancy to have to keep the hotel open. Now we're in the transitional phase where you have these wild fluctuation of occupancy, and you have the majority of days are below break even, and you get a handful of profit days. Right. Well, in that phase,
for example, you might be empty on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but full on weekends.
Exactly. So in that model, you have to make sure that on those transition days, on those loss-making days, you have perfectly aligned labor costs so that you're not wasting a dime. And that's going to push more days into profit days or break even. And then on those profit days, if you get your labor costs perfect by using productivity numbers, by actually having labor standards to drive every variable position, you're actually going to make those profit days a lot greater. And that money, I would take that money, put it right into demand capture, and accelerate your recovery both in GOP margin and on top line growth.
So that's great information. And today was a great show. I love this. I love my job because I learn something new every day. I didn't realize 1 minute of saving cleaning rooms $50,000, and I'm a numbers guy. So I love that number. I'm probably going to quote that forever. But let me ask you a question. And you may not be able to answer this, or maybe you don't even want to answer this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. The way that we've opened this country, right? Some states have done it right, some states have done it wrong, and basically we can't. If you can't go to Vegas and you have to come to New York to quarantine for 2 weeks, or Florida, or whatever, it just becomes a problem. So we've extended our recovery. I'd say 6 months at least, because of the practice of, and we've said it a million times: open slow, go quick. If you go slow, to go quick. We went quick and we went slow now. So what would you say as an industry, when you were looking at maybe May and you saw the numbers, oh my God, okay, we're starting to see the growth. And by the time August, September comes around, we're going to be here. What would you say from a percentage wise, did we shoot ourselves in the foot by not doing this the right way and really making this recovery just extended, just instead of kind of stunted? Yeah. How many months out? I guess the question is how many months have we taken off of our recovery?
I can tell you, I have a strong opinion about this. So every other downturn we've ever had, we could count on corporate transient staying relatively steady, right?
Right.
This time, corporate transient went away. It just like all but the bare necessity travel was gone. But it's also itching to come back. The false start in our recovery, the false reopen, right? The more aggressive reopening has delayed corporate from coming back, corporate transient. And that when that comes back, it's going to take about 6 months. I think your 6 month number is dead on right. I think if it hadn't been for that false start, if we could have done what some other countries had done and gotten our virus under control a little faster, we could have had corporate transient fully recovered by December. I think we're looking at mid-year next year, assuming we get it under control in the next month.
There's only one time on this show that I really lost my crap, and well, maybe a couple times. But the first time I lost my crap was, Glenn, if you remember, is the false start. I said, this is bullshit. This is a false start. This isn't going to work. Remember? Glenn just froze. We said this about 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago. And it was like, this is garbage. This isn't going to work. Because do you remember that conversation you and I had? I think you felt the same way. It's like, this is fake. Like all these hotels giving these numbers, everybody's excited. This is fake. Yeah. Unless somebody had a vaccine I didn't know about, like this is fake. And I was so angry about it because I saw it come. What upsets me is not mistakes. What upsets me is not failure. What upsets me is things that can be prevented. And we could have prevented this if we didn't make this a political football, and if we didn't make this, this state and that state, and I don't want to wear a mask. And somebody said something really funny on TikTok. I have this TikTok addiction that I do. At 1 o'clock in the morning when I go to sleep, I spend a half hour on TikTok. And this lady goes, "You're right. I'm not going to wear a mask. But first, before I don't wear a mask, I'm going to put on my seatbelt, which I'm regulated by law to do. And then, let me stop at this light that I'm regulated to stop at. And, and the police officer pulls me over. Let me pull out this license that I need to have to drive this vehicle, but I'm not going to put on an effing mask." So it's insane to me that because over this one piece of cloth, we've extended this, and it's just pissing.
So this is part of the reason this extended we're in the situation we're in, right? We have to deal with it. This transition phase should have been 3 months. It's going to be as much as a year. I mean, Google said last week they're not doing business travel until next year, next July, right?
Right. Yeah, they're not even having anyone come to their offices until
I mean, they said no travel for a year.
Right.
That sucks. This means this transitional phase I was talking about is going to last a long time. And if you can, just through labor savings, if you can manage labor more intelligently, not old school ways, new school ways, use data, right? Do that and turn 3 more days a month into profit days. You could actually break even or even make money in this cycle, right?
Wow.
And you needed to make those decisions. Like when you look at Google, when Google makes that decision, it has waves throughout the industry. It throughout the world. Forget about just the hotel business or travel business. It just has ripple effects throughout the world. When Arnie Sorensen, and I that's why he is who he is, and that's why he's a legend, is because he made a really, really difficult decision very, 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 very early, almost instantly. And when we looked at that and we dissected that on the show, we said, oh boy. So the people that were listening to him should have made decisions based on what he did. He didn't make that decision in the bubble and say, okay, he understood this was going to be a 2 year recovery. And he didn't say it, but his action proved it because he was trying to save his industry or save his company and the industry by doing that. But no one listened to that. Like, these are the things as a business person you've got to listen to. Not only what people are saying, but what people are doing. And that our governors and that our legislation did not listen to that crap. That guy that didn't wear a mask in the Senate and now he's got COVID. It's like, you got to be listening and seeing, and you got to, like, this is not your personal opinion. This is fact. And it's just really, if anything's ever pissed me off in my career, I've been on this earth 55 years. Very few things have pissed me off more than this could have been prevented.
Right. Well, you should be pissed off about the fact that facts are opinions these days and opinions are facts these days. I think that's where the root of all of these problems are coming from. But, Del, you are absolutely amazing with all of these statistics. Any good nugget of information left in your reservoir?
There's that one thing we're all going to be shocked about. There's that one number that nobody knows on earth but you.
Wow. Well,
it's hard to beat your $50,000 number there.
I'll say this. It's not a number. Well, I'll give you a number. There's not a single hotel out there that is doing old school scheduling. Old school means schedule like last week, right? That's the way that 90% of hotels are still scheduling like last week. That's the way they do it. Those hotels could save 5% tomorrow. 5% sustained savings on labor costs, their biggest daily expense, if they just connect the dots between their PMS data and their payroll data and use that to create schedules. Right?
And get bigger pillowcases.
And smooth changing pillowcases. Exactly.
So this is a good shameless plug. Give us your biggest, and you don't have to name it, your biggest, one of your biggest wins as far as when people started really paying attention to this, where they saved a lot of money or big percentage.
I got a great one. We actually got an email on Monday from a company that just took over 16 extended stay hotels. They won the management contract for 16 hotels. They implemented us in the first quarter. At the end of the first quarter, they were able to give us first quarter numbers without hotel effectiveness, second quarter with hotel effectiveness.
Cool.
Right? This is huge with the downturn and everything else, right? Their numbers, and we're going to publish this as a case study, but we haven't even had a chance to write it down from this yet. They saved $30,000 per year per hotel on this thing. They were below standard. Like, they actually had labor standards. They knew, like, based on how cleaning times and other things, what they do. They were above standard 32% of the time pre-hotel effectiveness. They were at or below standard. They were below standard 6% of the time.
Wow.
Post. It's $30,000 per hotel. Now, for that hotel, these are mid-scale extended stay hotels. $30,000 a year is huge. $30,000 a year pays for your assistant general manager or your director of sales. I mean, it's a really big deal, right? So we're talking about material savings on 16 hotels. That management company, they look like geniuses, and they barely got started.
Right. And these are the things that we don't look at. I always say this is a revenue driving business, not expense driving business or savings business. But once you lock it in, once you lock your savings in, then you can worry about revenue. But you got to lock it in. I remember being on the show when they did this gentleman, Angelo from Mobile Cart, brought this mobile cart on to the show. And I actually have one in my garage, one of the greatest gifts I've ever received. And the mobile cart basically for an engineer, and you basically bring it everywhere, and anything you need, anything, it's in this cart. And the thing that used to drive me crazy is my engineer would go upstairs and have to come down for a tool, go upstairs, come down for a tool. And once you insert mobile cart into your building, yes, it may be a couple grand up front, but I'll tell you right now, even my own home, I've saved probably thousands of dollars on tools because I can't find something. I have no patience. I go buy a new one. Now, I'm serious. I go with my mobile cart and I try to do a job of putting the tool back where it belongs. And I tell you, it's amazing. I use it all the time. And these are the things that this cost savings, once you lock them in, they're there for a long time.
Anyone know the average cost of a pillowcase?
What was that?
He probably knows that.
Average cost of a pillowcase.
The average?
1,000 thread count.
I didn't hear you.
Average cost of a pillowcase.
The average count of a pillowcase is what?
Cost, money.
Oh, per dozen? Well, it depends. I mean, you can get a dozen for $30, or you can get a dozen for $3,000.
Right, of course.
Average say a dozen. You know what? I've been at it. I'm going to guess a dozen pillowcases cost you $112.
Yeah,
All right. So think about how quickly you could make that back by just making the right investments. And I'd love for everybody out there to extrapolate that about all areas of your business, right? And then get to the root of everything. Don't think about that last stage of it, all of the things that add up to it, and figure out how you can eliminate things out of that process and cut down on all of those minutes and the waste. And that's why I love what Anthony is saying about the cart. That's what I love about workflow optimization software. And that's what I love about the data that you have, Del, to really give people a good picture of what's happening so they know that there are places that they could find efficiencies and save all of that essential cash. I love it. Hey, it's right there in your name, hotel effectiveness, right?
That's right.
And think about, like we just said, like say pillowcases, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, say average cost of 12 pillowcases, $112, right? Just for shits and giggles, right? Now you have 400 room hotel. You have 3 pars you need, one on the shelf, one in the laundry, and one on the bed, right? So think about that. Think about how many pillows, if you have 4 pillows in a room, you have hundreds of rooms, and you need 3 pars. So guess what, Del, Glenn, and Anthony Melchiori? We should be in the linen business.
That's right.
All right. So I'd like to make an announcement that we're creating a linen business right here. Yeah. All right, Dale, final words. I mean, this has been such an informative show. How can people find you and learn more about what you're up to, Del?
Hoteleffectiveness.com is our website. There's an easy form there. Just pop your email address in there and we'll talk to you about this. We work with 4,500 hotels in the US and Canada today. We work with nearly all of the largest management companies. We also work with tons of small ones. We have a very inexpensive SaaS-based service. And we actually just recently launched a new communications tool. And all this includes a free wellness check-in product that every customer we get gets this free wellness check-in. So 28 states now require hotel workers to complete a symptom survey. We give a tool that allows that all to be enabled. So come give us a call or go to our website or just reach out to me on LinkedIn and we'll hook you up. You're going to like it.
Beautiful.
And talking to you, one of the things people have to understand about your company is you're not just looking at numbers. You understand the numbers, where the numbers come from. You understand the soul of the numbers. Being able to, your operations people, being able to pontificate numbers, a lot of people can do that. But understanding the soul of the numbers, when I talk about a number, I can back it up 27 different ways. And obviously your company, that's what's important, is that you can really kind of decipher what the numbers mean.
Yeah. Look, we are a people business. We don't get into this business. Nobody entered the hotel industry operations because they wanted to do math problems or work on a computer. But the reality is our success or failure is based on numbers and math and computers. It just is. You just want to do it in a way that requires minimal time there with maximum output. And that's why automating some things that might otherwise be on like a handwritten doodle sheet or a spreadsheet or something like that, that's really inefficient. It's going to make your head hurt. So you want to automate where you can and get back to where you can do what you love, which is to interact with guests and staff.
And to the point, like I always say, like if you run a restaurant, restaurants are hard to run. I think they're hard to run, hotels. But you can see the kitchen, you can see your employee, you can see the guest, you can see the dirt on the floor, and it's just a lot of hard work making sure everything's good, right? With hotels, I can't see anything, right? I can't see the housekeeper cleaning. I can't see the maintenance guy fixing things. I can't see anything. I can't see my guest complaining at the front desk. The hotel's too big, right? So if you don't have efficiencies and you don't have systems, that's where hotels lose their way because they think they can see and feel everything. You can't. That's why a restaurant and a hotel are just two different things. A manager of a restaurant works really, really hard and is really, really smart, but a hotel manager could work a lot less hard than a restaurant manager, but be more efficient because their systems run the hotel. They don't have to run the hotel by being there 18 hours a day.
Although a lot of them do. So that's one of the other things. One of our other missions is to try and reduce the burden.
But you know what the magic trick is to having weekends off your whole career like I have? Hire really smart people.
And go back to onboarding like we were talking about.
Right. Yeah. So, Del, thank you so much for being here. That was great. Let us know when you have some more great information or we'll get you back on, okay?
All right. Thank you so much, guys.
All right, buddy. Be good, brother. Take care. All right, Anthony, before we get into that other comment, I just want to say, Nick, best joke of the day, even though I let it pass when you were talking about underwear. Lucky he wasn't a commando. Love the play of words for those.
You know what's so funny is I saw that comment and I said, because I'm not silly. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Like I really did. I didn't work weekends for years. Even on my show, we never worked weekends. I don't want to work weekends. And you did not work weekends. How do you, general manager, turning around hotels in New York City? Because I worked maybe the 6 weeks I took over the hotel, and then I didn't work on weekends because my team was great. And systems and efficiencies and hiring the right people, you don't work as hard. It's just the way it is. So put that Sarah comment back on if Sarah's still here. So Sarah, when are we having you on the show? When are we having Sarah on the show? This is a young lady that has built her own brand and is building a brand and is really transitioning out of the hotel space and really into the travel space. And I think is really the prototype and really the standard of what like people should really be looking at of how to manage your business. And like she makes everything so easy. I see her videos and I see what she does. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so easy for her. And it's easy because she puts 20 hours a day, 7 days a week.
That's right. Yeah.
And so what I want to talk about that. And I also want to talk about the transition of the concierge, and because she comes from concierge. And so I want to have her on the show. So David, if you're listening, please book her on the show. Sarah, if you're listening.
Yeah, reach out to us. I am Glenn, Glenn, at rouse.media. Glenn, Glenn, at rouse.media. What's that, Anthony?
Just text me. I'll send it. Me and her are good friends. So text me.
Cool.
David, but she is. I want to, and she's such a nice person. So she's going to come on here. So I'm going to prepare her. She's going to come on here, and she's going to be all nice, and she's going to give you, really good information. But I'm going to beat her up a little bit. I'm going to shake her. I want her to tell what's happening in this industry. And if you don't become a brand yourself, and you don't take care of yourself right now, the industry ain't going to take care of you. And I think she's done a legendary job. And I had a TV show to launch my career.
You had a TV show?
People. And she did it. She's doing this piecemeal, and she's got more social media files than I'll ever have. And she's an amazing person, and she does it the right way, and she understands the business. So let's have her on the show. Thank you, Sarah.
Well, and Sarah, you're going to have to be absolutely amazing now. No pressure to you, because Anthony really talked you up there. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Remember, text the word hotel to 66866. Get our weekly newsletter. I want to thank everybody who was in on Hotel Reboot yesterday, helping refuel your food and beverage business. The good thing is that one and the previous show all focused on investments and reinvestments in your property and everything you need to know about banking. That's available too. So go to hotelreboot.com and you can watch those replays. Anthony, today, 3 p.m. What are you doing, sir?
Did you see my face?
Yeah, we're still live on TV here, right?
No, I know. Did you see my face? I forgot at 3 o'clock. I do the Facebook Live.
Good thing I remembered, because I want to tune in every week, because you guys are taking episodes of Hotel Impossible and really breaking them down to what you were thinking at the time and all of that. That's really cool stuff.
Holy shit! I gotta get prepared for my 3 o'clock. But listen, it's a great show, and listen, we take a numbers show, we take hotel effectiveness, and we give it heart, we give it soul, we make it emotional, because that's this industry, right? So you have to be able to be two people. You have to be a business person, and you got to be a cheerleader, and you've got to make people feel good. And if you can't do that in this industry, coming out of this, you're a problem. And you know what? It's really coming to me in doing this for as long as we have it, and during COVID, that I'm going to make it a statement right now. I am going to run a hotel, whether I own it or I don't. I'm going to be a general manager again one day before I kick the bucket. I've realized through this show that I miss it more than I miss anything in this world. I miss those stand-up meetings. I miss running hotels. I miss the P&Ls.
Anthony, you've been talking about this for a couple of years.
No, but
it is inevitable.
I think it's inevitable. After we do a few other things that we're working on. But yes.
Yeah.
All right. Love you.
Awesome.
Gotta go prepare.
Yeah. All right. Anthony's got to go get prepared. Thank you all for listening. We absolutely love you, and thanks for sharing. And I got to tell you, I'm buoyed by all these amazing comments that we're getting today about all the folks that aren't even in the hospitality industry that are finding everything that we're doing really applicable to their careers too.
You know why? Because we gotta really every show talk about what's happening with careers. And it's really desperate right now. And we've got to bring that into every show we do. I don't care if we're talking about milk and cookies. We've got to bring into really the industry and whether you leave or employment opportunities. And again, people look at you and look at me and look at other people and like, well, how do you brand yourself? How do you become an entrepreneur?
Mhm.
And their answer is, we said it yesterday. The gentleman we had on yesterday, what was his name? I forgot.
I don't even remember yesterday's show.
Yesterday's show was great. It was the gentleman Domio.
Yeah. Jay Roberts. Sorry, Jay.
Right. Jay was amazing. And he said, perseverance and focus, period, end of story.
Yep. Yeah, sorry about that, Jay. I'm still dealing with tropical storm fallout and not being at home and all of that kind of crazy stuff. Anthony, great show today. I look forward to a lot more great shows in the future with you. We've got a great lineup coming up over the next few weeks. It seems like our guests just keep getting better and better, which is absolutely amazing.
Oh, and let's tell people about Fridays. What we decided about Fridays. Let's be honest.
We're gonna start running best ofs on Fridays because we need a little bit of a break. We need to do some other stuff.
4 days, we're giving you really great guests, and we don't want to dilute the guests. We want to have only solid, strong guests. And as people get a little bit busier, it's hard to tie people down for a live show. So we're doing a 4-day week, Monday through Thursday. Fridays we're going to do repeat shows. When we may go to 5 days, we may go to 6 days one day. But right now we're on 4 days.
Right.
And then 5 days we're going to do the best of. And if you guys disagree with that and you do a petition and you start coming into our front yard and tell us you want 5, we'll give you 5.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. There might be days where we do bonus shows as well. And when we get back out on the road and we're at different events and such, we'll be doing broadcasts from there. I'm hoping, Anthony, the Logic Conference so far is still scheduled to go in September. I will be attending there. Right now I'm scheduled in Phoenix. Right now I'm scheduled to host a general session and a breakout session. So I'm still going to go to that, assuming it's taking place. I know your eyes are furrowed and your brows there too.
You ever see Different Strokes? What you talking about, Willis?
What you talking about, Willis?
Good luck with that, brother. I'm going too. No, I'm going. But good luck.
But if I'm there, we'll be broadcasting live from there. So we'll see what happens, and we're working on some other stuff as well. I want to thank you guys for being here again. Thanks for all of your support. Please share this show with others so we can continue to build our audience. And remember, you got one life, so blaze on. And
as the greatest person on TV said, yabba dabba do. Take care of yourself.